The What It Takes Radio Company, helping you connect with your audience, bringing your message to life, and maybe a touch of immortality. Once again, it's my pleasure to bring you the Interesting Ideas podcast. And today, let me ask you, could it now, today, it's time for Christmas for Grown-Ups. That's right, Christmas for Grown-Ups. Please let me tell you the story. Greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stan, the Radio Man, and the Transformation Zone. It's part of Interesting Ideas, but then it's going to grow and be on its own. We'll talk about that. Hey, you got the title. This is the second day of Christmas, and I've entitled it, This is the Day of Christmas for Grown-Ups. Christmas for Grown-Ups. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, that's what I'd like to do today. Tell you a little bit about what we did when we did Christmas for children. And then, of course, now, what does it mean that now it's Christmas for grown-ups? And what is the new year, the coming year, the transforming year going to be like? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Welcome indeed to the Transformation Zone. When we lived in Europe, we always looked forward to, at least I did, the second day of Christmas. Now, in many of the European countries, and where we were in the Netherlands, that's an official day. Most people don't go to work on the second day of Christmas. And it was a very special day because a lot of the hustle and bustle of Christmas, and there wasn't quite as much in the European context, but the American commercialism had pretty much taken over even when we were there. But it was a quiet day, all of the feasting and all the stuff that we had gone through, we just relaxed. And oftentimes, the local church would have a wonderful organ concert that you could just go and sit and listen to. You didn't have to applaud or didn't have to give anybody any accolades. It was just a wonderful experience. Occasionally, some of the restaurants would open, and it would be a time where you could have go out, perhaps with the family. Sometimes that was also a time when there might be some older relatives who couldn't come to the Christmas celebration, that you'd make a special effort to go out and be with them. They might be in some institutions or in some places where it would be hard for them to get out for the regular family celebrations. And so that's a part of what we did. I looked forward to that. Now, that's part of what it means, that it's the day for grown-ups, but also it's a way of reflecting on the story itself and what it meant and why it was wonderful for children. Now, of course, most of us know that at this age and stage. My wife and I, along with most of the adults throughout even our extended family, we no longer give gifts anymore. We don't need people to go to the fuss and the bother and the expense of finding something that we don't need and then go through the trouble of giving it to us. We just don't have to do that anymore. But of course, the children and the grandchildren, and particularly our stage now, it's mostly even just the grandchildren, because even our own adult children have kind of gotten over that, but we still make sure that we do something simple and maybe helpful. And of course, in some cases, that means send them some money. We don't do that, but it was so much fun, and it still is, to see small children responding to the mystery and the miracle and the excitement of Christmas. And in particular, we watched the children's program that was put on in our church 4 o'clock on Christmas Eve day. So of course, then of course they could go to the church or they could perform at the church, and then of course then they had the rest of the evening for the Christmas Eve celebrations as a family, and it was delightful. The children did a wonderful job, but it was crazy kids, um, saying their parts. And they actually had one of the newborn babies. Now, it wasn't really a newborn, but it was a baby still of one of the uh, guests, you might say, in the church. That was what was put down there for about 15 or 20 minutes while they did their little performance. And the one who was dressed as a donkey, what really got into it, and jumping up and down, and the excitement of them performing and doing their parts, and the angel flapping her wings and announcing, it was just it was just delightful. It was just wonderful. And of course you could tell they were enjoying it so fully, and we were enjoying their enjoyment. Yeah, that's the way it should be. And then of course the day itself is a little more confusing, but toward the end of the day, things begin to quiet down, and my wife and I enjoyed some old-fashioned movies. We watched again. I think the story of "It's a White Christmas," and we were amazed. As Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, and it's actually, the film itself now is 70 years old because it was done in 1954, and uh, the singing and the dancing was obviously, of the time, but they were really, really good. Then there were some other things that we just enjoyed doing, and a very simple Christmas Day supper, not a dinner, just a supper. And what we did, uh, I now make it very much a part of my Christmas, that I very much honor my friends in the Jewish tradition. I join them in many of their practices. And this is the first day of Hanukkah, through the miracle of the menorah, the Hanukkah miracle. Uh, we lit last night when the day began for the tradition, and we lit the first candle on our menorah and made the saying for it. And we'll do the second candle tonight. Um, that's wonderful. And that's very much in line with my new understanding that actually, if there hadn't been the Maccabees who preserved in some way uh, the people of Israel by their successful revolt, uh, well, maybe if that hadn't happened, then there might not have been a place for the baby Jesus to be born in Judea, in Bethlehem. Maybe, of all things, it was the Hanukkah that actually made Christmas possible. It's fun to think that way. It's just wonderful to be able to think that way, put those connections together. But also, it also causes us to say, you know, the story, the Christmas story now gets pretty rugged. Yeah, the massacre of the innocents, uh, Joseph and Mary and the Jesus fleeing for their lives, spending exiles, refugees in Egypt. Yeah, Jesus was a refugee in Africa. I remember doing a program for Radio Netherlands on that, and there was great response because at that time the refugee crisis in Africa, because of the famine and droughts, was going on, and we simply pointed out that even from the earliest days, Jesus experienced what it was like to be in the human condition. Yeah, had to leave his home, and they until Herod had died, then they made their way back. Oh, you wonder what happened. How did they make a living? How did they? Some people have even said that it is possible that the gifts of the Magi, which came, remember, it wasn't really the Magi at the stable scene. That's just kind of uh, a very sweet. Someone said there was nothing sweet about a smelly old stable, and a little a young girl screaming in pain as she gives birth to a child in the midst of all that mess. It wasn't a sweet situation, but we've made it sweet. But the Magi come and they worship. Well, the story is that they probably came later, and then of course they went back a different way because they had been warned in a dream. Isn't that interesting? Uh, Scripture takes very seriously the idea of God speaking in dreams. And because Herod is antagonized by that, he has the babies killed. Wow. And then Jesus grows up. And remember, after he grew up, life was challenging. Yeah. It's everybody can handle little baby Jesus, sweet little baby Jesus. But grown up Jesus becomes a very different figure and character. And now you and I, as adults, the children can still very much be involved in the sweet Jesus of the story, but we have to be involved in the story itself as grown-ups. And that means we may have to make some significant transformations in our life if we take the whole thing very seriously. And so that's what I usually take the second day to do. Okay, um, what do I do differently now? What are some of, not my New Year's resolutions? I've passed that. We're going to be talking about tomorrow that it's not about a resolution, it's about a revolution in your life. Think of it that way. My friend Kevin will be here with me and we'll maybe do some thinking about that. But now, what are we going to do? What is life going to bring to us? Or what are we going to bring to our living? Um, how are we going to, in the midst of a challenging time? Now, we are very much, of course, right now, not only are programs on the media about perhaps future predictions, but now there's a kind of reflections. In fact, I just found out that one is saying, what are the big lies of 2024? Yeah. What were the big lies that were perpetuated on us in 2024? Well, where do you begin with something like that? Uh, there were a lot of them. And of course, more and more, part of the part that goes into being a grown up is to understand that we are living in challenging times. And how do we live well? Uh, how do we live in a healthy way, a better way, a flourishing way? Uh, in the Jesus Entrepreneur podcast, which we're loading up, and we point out, as someone copied me, where I pointed out that Jesus was in the business of saying, life is about flourishing. I have come that you might have life and that it should flourish. And this one person heard me talk a little bit about that in a line with where I went through the various ways that businesses sometimes go from a movement to a not a movement. Then they have to get organized, the entrepreneurial organization, and then they become a business, and then the business oftentimes becomes corrupt and it becomes a racket. And the world is full of rackets, which caused one of the friends to kind of paraphrase me and said, Stan Houston says that if a business is not in the business of helping people flourish, human flourishing is what it's about. It's a racket. Well, I'm not so sure I exactly said that, but I embrace it. And that was the message that was received. Yeah. And I don't want to live as a racketeer. And you don't either. That's not what we want. We want the world to truly be better because we were here. That people were blessed because we were here. Because people were not cursed and defeated because we were here. That something happened to us, which perhaps in our giving up things and receiving new understandings, something happened to us. We weren't just improved. We weren't just changed. Perhaps we were actually transformed. We became somewhat different, not just by degree, but different in kind. And actually, that's what the Christmas story is all about. It's sweet for the children, but the Christmas story is saying to you and me, grow up, grow up. The baby Jesus is going to grow up and he's going to face the world and he's going to take it on and he's going to change it. And as he said, what you see me do, go do. What you saw me do, go do. Don't just believe in me. See if you can be like me. I'm done. I'm done for today. Uh, I'm going to finish it up. I'm going to light my menorah, uh, say the blessing for the second candle, and think about how tomorrow got lots of grown up things to do, and I'm going to hope that I can do them well. And I wish the same for you. Best and blessings. Till next time. Transformation Zone, interesting ideas, how to be a world-class Jesus podcaster, how to be a world-class Jesus broadcaster, how to join the impact zone if you're young and want to make your mark in the world. Those are being some of the things that in my grown-up stage, and in fact in my old man stage, that I still hope to accomplish. As I think about the menorah, I remember the Moses man. It said that at the age of 80, he finally received his mission in life. Maybe that's when we sometimes really receive it. When we're old and gray and nay, sometimes this is when we actually discover what we were made for. And hopefully we have still the best of blessings and the time and the energy to do what we were made for. Just let that sit on your head for a while. Best and blessings. Bye for now.